All right, here we are in exercise 14, and we're working with symbols. So symbols are a great way to create repeating and randomized objects and icons over an artboard. They repeat based on how you use the symbol tool, and so it's more of a manual repeating. These can be used in a number of different ways, but the strength lies in their numbers. So you want to use this when you have to add multiples of the same object or the same set of objects, or you just want to manually apply them. So for instance, maps are a really good way of using the symbols tool. So like other effects in Illustrator, if we want to start adjusting the vector paths of symbols, we need to expand them. So just keep in mind that these are similar to the other things we've been using, where when we're done using them and we're confident in the final look of what we have, then we can expand the set of symbols and then start modifying the individual vector paths. So the other thing we're going to go over is using the symbol tools. Let's go ahead and open up the symbols panel. So we can find this through window and down here, symbols. And you guys might have a different set of symbols already loaded on your panel. But just to demonstrate how this works, I'm just going to choose a random symbol. So I'll choose trees. You can choose something. And then I'll come over here to the symbol sprayer tool. You can also hit Shift and S to access that. So now you see we have what looks like a spray can, and we have a small circular radius. And this is basically showing us kind of how far we're going to be spraying these small objects around. I'm going to move over here off the artboard, and then I'm just going to click and drag and then release and see what I get. So I just manually applied a number of these objects of trees. If I hold down the command key and click, I can start a new set of symbols. And so that's important to understand too. Anytime you start to make symbols, if I still have this set of symbols with a selection box around it, as I begin to add more, it's lumping them all into the same set. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But if I want to add a new set, I need to click outside of it using the black arrow and then start again. All right, I'm going to hold down on my command key and I'll do a marquee selection of all of those symbols and I'll delete them. And let's go ahead and practice making a custom symbol. So I'm going to move down. I'll zoom out. Okay, so what I have here is the framework for a tree, and I want to populate this tree with a bunch of these leaves. So I've gone ahead and already created a set of objects that looks like leaves, and then I grouped them. And to make that new custom symbol, all I need to do is click and drag this into the symbols panel. I can name this tree leaves. And let's make sure to export it as a graphic. And we're not going to get into the dynamic symbols for now. We're just going to keep it as a static symbol. The registration should stay in the center, and then we'll click OK. All right, so I'll click outside. Now I have that symbol selected. Okay, so now I need to come over and use my symbol sprayer to apply that new symbol. I'll just start clicking and dragging inside here. And I like that, but I would want the leaves to come out more denser. I want more leaves every time I use the symbol sprayer. So I'm going to double click on the symbol sprayer tool, and you can see I can change the diameter, and then right here the intensity. I'm going to bring the intensity up to 8, and I'll keep the symbol set density at 5. Just know that if you are working with a Wacom tablet or another drawing tablet, you can start to set these individual parts of the symbol sprayer tools based on your pressure of using your tab. You can also do the stylus wheel, tilt, bearing, and rotation. For now, since I'm working with a mouse, I'm going to keep this as fixed. And click OK. And I'll start again. And there we go. We're getting something that's a little more intense, a little more saturated. Now you can see as I add more to this set, it starts to push everything out. So when I want to keep this from continuing to push out from that center, I'll just hold down on the command key and click, and then I'll start a new set. Command key, click, and new set. Command key, click, new set over here. Command key, click, new set here. I'll just keep doing this until I get a pretty good likeness of a tree. Now that I have all my symbols laid out, I want to start to actually modify these and again give it more of that randomized look. So I'm going to hit V for my black arrow, and then I'm going to select all of those symbols, and then I'm going to come back to the symbol sprayer tool in the toolbox. I'm going to click and hold down, and you can see we have a number of different variations of symbol modification tools. So the symbol sprayer actually applies the symbols so you need to use that. But these other ones are going to modify the existing symbols. So let's try this first one, the symbol shifter. Like our other tools, I can adjust the radius of this tool by using the bracket keys. So I'll go ahead and increase the radius, and this is basically the area that it's going to have an effect on. And I'll hover right over here, and I'll start to click and drag. You can see now I'm pulling symbols wherever I click and drag. I'm going to get this a little bit smaller now, so I'm hitting the left bracket key, and I'll just start pulling some individual ones around. Maybe I'll pull this one up, make this a little bit bigger, and pull all of those up a little bit. Alright, so that's essentially how that one works. Let's try another one. Let's try the scruncher. Alright, so the scruncher is going to either scrunch things together or spread them apart. So by default, if I click and hold, it's going to start pulling things together. But if I hold down on the Alt key and do the same thing, now it's actually going to spread those apart. So I'll spread some parts out, and then I'll actually pull some parts in. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the sizer. So this one is going to size the symbols up. So if I click and hold, I'm going to see those getting bigger. But if I hold down on the Alt key, I'll begin to shrink some of them. So I can go back and forth and kind of shrink parts, maybe down here near the edge, and I might want to increase some parts in the middle. So like our other tools, I can double click and I can reset some of these parameters. I might decide that, hey, I want this to be a little less dense. So I might do 4 and click OK. You can see when I did that, all of the symbols spread out a little bit more. Now I can come back and continue to adjust sizes. Okay, let's go to the next one, the spinner tool. Okay, so the spinner tool, like it says, if I click and drag, I'm going to start spinning or rotating some of these symbols. And you can see that each symbol has its own direction arrow associated with it. I'm going to go ahead and decrease the size so I'm not affecting so many symbols all at once. And I'll start adjusting just some individual groupings of leaves. This one can be kind of tricky. It takes a little while to finally rotate one all the way around. Eventually they will. I'm still working on trying to spin a couple of these. Alright, I like that. Alright, let's go to the next one. The stainer tool. Alright, so this one will actually colorize your symbols. So right now we're working with these lush green leaves. Maybe we decide that we want to give this more of a seasonal look, like the fall is coming. I'm going to go ahead and choose a orange-red, and I'll increase the size of the radius, and I'll start to click and drag, and we got to make sure that we have these symbols selected first. And then I'll start to click and drag, and it starts to actually color those leaves. It starts to tint them with the color that I had chosen. I can double click this and I can bring that intensity down. I'll bring it down to 2, and then I'll do the same thing, and now it more gradually colors those leaves. Maybe I'll make it so the edges of the tree are starting to show more of the fall colors. I'll start with this orange-red, and the more I click on them, the more saturated they become. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead now and choose an orange color, or a light orange. Start to lighten those up a little bit more. Maybe I'll increase the intensity now. So I'll increase it to 8, and I'll go ahead and start to get those edges to be a little bit lighter. And maybe I'll try a yellow. Pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and try the other one, so the screener tool. So this tool is going to decrease the opacity of these leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease the intensity down to 1, and I'll just come in here on these bottom edges, and maybe I'll decrease the intensity or the opacity of some of these. And I don't know how practical this tool is for this particular graphic, but I'm sure this would have all kinds of applications to other kinds of graphics or illustrations. And the more you click, the more transparent it becomes. Alright, let's try the last one. So the styler tool. So this one works in tandem with your graphic styles panel. So I'll go ahead and go to Window and Graphic Styles. And I'll go ahead and choose something random. I'll choose this RGB sand. I'll do a marquee selection of some of those symbols and just try this. Yep, and so what this did is it took that symbol and it superimposed the new graphic style across the symbol. We'll go ahead and zoom out. I'll undo that because in this instance we don't really need to use that. Alright, so now that we have a little bit of knowledge on working with the symbol tools, let's go ahead and put that into action and practice a little bit. So here we have an image of this fake map, and we want to populate this with some different symbols and little icons to give this more life. So make sure you have your symbols panel open. So I'll go Window and Symbols. And the ones you want to be using are maps, nature, and whatever ones you think would be appropriate for this one. So probably not this hair and fur, probably not these mobile icons here, but go ahead and start to scroll through. Remember, you can change how the list is viewed. So I'll make this a large list view. And I'll start with my map symbols. Large list view, and let's start putting in some key landmarks here. So we need to have an airport. I'll select that one, and instead of using the symbol sprayer, if I just click and drag and find a point, I can just add that symbol just by clicking and pulling this off of the panel. I'll just start putting some of these other ones on. I like these points of interest here. I'm gonna go ahead and size that up a little, so you can size these symbols once you've created them as well. So let's indicate that this is a highway, and maybe this is a different one. We'll put this one over here. I like this compass. I'll zoom out. I'll drag this compass down here over to the corner, size that up a little bit. And you know what? I don't like these red ones. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that airport one and put in this one, airport 2, the black and white one. Maybe I have an airport there. Maybe there's a boat launch right over here. Let's just try to give this some interest, make it look like it's a real place. Of course, we're going to need a hospital somewhere in this city by the coast. Maybe down here the campers can go down this road, and we need to show where the campgrounds are along with the facilities like restrooms. There's so many of these pre-made icons in this symbol set that you could literally take on a map maker's project just using these default icons in here. Put some areas where we can go swimming. We'll make these a little bit larger. We'll go ahead and put this state park symbol in here and make it pretty large. Alright, so now that I have those landmarks in there, I'm going to start adding some of these nature symbols in here. So I'll start down here with this foliage 2, and I'll use my symbol sprayer. And I'll come down over here and use the symbol sprayer. And maybe this part is kind of like a jungle area. I'll go ahead and start adding these symbols, and I can see that this set that I've just added to, it's too big. So I'll come in here and I'll start sizing them. So I'll use the sizer tool. I'll make it big, hold down on the Alt key, start pulling these in. I'll increase the intensity, bring it up to 10. 10 is the maximum intensity. I'll start pulling these in, making them smaller. Make sure you've only selected the symbol set first. Alright, I'll go ahead and use the shifter, and I'll start pulling these around, grouping them close together. Alright, I like that. Hold down on the command key and click. And I'm going to just go ahead and while holding down the command key, I'll click that. I'll hold down on the Alt key, and I'll just make a copy of that symbol set. Click on the black arrow, and there. Now I don't have to add more symbols. What I do want to do is delete some of these because we don't need some of these other ones. So this is a good chance to expand the symbol set and further modify what we've copied. So I'll go ahead and go to Object, Expand. Yep, we want to turn it into an object and fill the object, so I'll click OK. So now we have these individual parts. I'll go ahead and ungroup those, and now I can select these individual symbols and delete them. I can also just move them now that they're expanded, and maybe I want to size this one up a little bit more. Let's try trees 1. I'll come back to my symbol sprayer, and I'm going to make this part a forest over here. Alright, so that added a lot really quickly. I'll go ahead and use my sizer tool. And this time I'm just going to double click on this, and I'll increase the radius, hold down on the Alt key, and start to size those trees down. Alright, and then I'll start to pull them together. I'll use the shifter. Go. I'll scrunch them together a little bit more. Symbol scruncher, pull those in, and I'll hit B or V for the black arrow, and I'll move these around a little bit. I'll expand them. Object, expand. Okay, I'll ungroup them, and then I'll come in here with final adjustments. Maybe I'll copy some of these, hold down on the Alt key. I'll arrange this to the front, just like any other object. Alright, zoom out, and let's add some more things. Let's try this grass. So I'll try grass 1. I'll use my symbol sprayer, bring down the radius, and start to add some grass. I'll hold down on the command key and click so I can add some new sets. So remember to hit command and click outside of the selection if you want to add a new set. Alright, not bad. I'll come in here and choose some of these. Hold down on my shift key with my black arrow, and see if I can modify some of these. So I'll come in here with my scruncher, pull these in a little bit, and I'll expand this one. object, expand, okay, ungroup, and I'll just go ahead and delete these ones on the edge. All right, I want to add the look of flowing water. So I'm just going to use my pen tool, and I'll come right in here, and I'll drag a new path or something like that. I'll switch the stroke and the fill, hit Command and click, and I will change this to a dark blue, increase the stroke weight, and give it a profile. Make a copy of this. All right, I'll select those two, group them, Command G, and then I'll pull them into, size them down a little bit, and then I'll pull it into my symbols panel and make a symbol, water waves, and I want to save it as a graphic, and click OK. All right, and now I can use my symbol sprayer. I need to make sure the intensity's down a little bit more on that. I'll bring it down to 2. All right, and let's use this sizer. Size some of these down a little bit, so I got to hold down the Alt key and click. There we go. All right. And I think for the last parts, I'm just gonna add some funky stuff. So maybe this shark here, beware sharks in the water. So go ahead, take some time, play around with some of these different symbols, and see if you can make something that's fun to look at, fun and interesting. Go through some of the other symbol libraries and see what else you can find. And know that there might be opportunities in an illustration or some other kind of graphic design to use symbols. And so that's an overview of using symbols in the symbol sprayer.